Hello, friends. Welcome to Staying in My Lane podcast. You can find this podcast on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, RSS, YouTube, and the list kind of goes on. So look for Staying in My Lane podcast with the logo that shows up on whatever platform you are listening. The space in this podcast, we talk about growth. We talk about messy middle parts of life. We talk about the uncomfortable things and the awkward things that nobody wants to talk about. And we've recently talked about divorce, relationships, transforming, and letting go, and what that feels like, what that looks like. So today's topic kind of relates that all back full circle to what we've talked about before: success and change. Not the exciting kind of change, not the Instagrammable change, but the kind that is hurtful, the kind of change that makes success a little bit more difficult because we constantly have the pressure of social media. Today's episode, we're going to explore why change feels so uncomfortable, ways to cope in a healthy way when everything feels kind of upside down, and how to set goals manifesting your way forward with clarity and compassion and not looking back. So, whether you're going through a breakup, a divorce, relocating, a job loss, anything that makes you feel a little outside of your comfort zone, let's be real about the fact that change is rarely neat. It's messy, it's not comfortable, it's chaos. It can feel like you're walking barefoot over broken glass, even when the change is necessary or when it's good in the long run, but it doesn't feel that way. This process can suck. Here's the truth. Our brains are wired to resist change. They crave the familiar because familiar means safe. Like I talked about in last week's episode, when we are in control of our lives, that makes us feel safe. The familiar things feel safe. And when things shift, whether it's a relationship ending, job disappearing, or when your identity starts to evolve, that activates a threat response in our brains. It cues anxiety, doubt, and the urge to control everything. Again, because control makes us feel safe. So if you've been feeling confused, unmotivated, emotional, or just out of sync or out of whack, you're not broken, you're in a transition. Again, you are not broken, you are in transition. Let's talk about coping, because when we are in that pain, the easiest thing to do is to reach for what numbs us. Scrolling and getting that dopamine high through TikTok, Facebook, whatever. Binging on something that maybe isn't the healthiest for us. Avoidance, alcohol, drugs, even perfectionism. They all work in the short term, but long term, they keep us stuck. And I'm not saying everybody does drugs or alcohol. I'm saying those are easy things to use as a coping mechanism. So how do we cope intentionally? You don't have to fix the pain immediately, but you do have to acknowledge it. I say that all the time. Acknowledging the pain, you have to feel it to heal it. Create structure without pressure. When everything feels uncertain, creating a few small routines in your everyday life can help out a lot, whether it's going for a 10-minute walk every morning at 7 a.m. or drinking a glass of water and meditating when you get up right away. Those things are not about performance, it's about grounding yourself. When you do that, you can use the power of self-compassion. You wouldn't yell at a friend who's grieving the loss of somebody. So why do we do it to ourselves? Practice talking to yourself like you are your friend or someone that you love. Ask better questions. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Try asking yourself, what is this trying to teach me? Or who am I becoming through this? Setting and manifesting the future is very powerful. I know this sounds kind of silly, but when I feel like I'm kind of in that transition period, I create a vision board. And recently, I created a vision board with my future goals for the next 5 years. And then I broke it down into smaller pieces that were attainable and realistic. Ironically, I've achieved 4 of those goals in the past 3 weeks. So it is possible and it is realistic if you break things down into smaller attainable goals. But once you've made space for the messy parts, side note, take your time because it's not about rushing. Anyways, back to it. You might start feeling the first sparks of hope if you make space for that messy and chaos and the unpredictability. That moment when you think, okay, maybe I can build something new from this experience. Here's where that goal setting, manifestation, and really setting those intentions comes in. But I want to approach this in a way that is gentle and grounded, because we so often rush our lives. We rush our families, our children, ourselves, and we kind of forget what actually matters. And so setting goals that are aligned, not forced. And I do this with myself. So asking yourself, what actually matters to me right now in this moment? What do I want to feel more of? What does my life look like a month from now? What's one small thing that I can commit to this week? Small goals like this build trust with yourself, and don't underestimate the power of small wins. It doesn't always have to be a big, loud firework. It can be one of the small little firecrackers. It doesn't have to be forced. It can be encouraged rather than pushed. And manifestation really does equal clarity plus energy plus action. It's kind of like a math equation, which I hate math, but I like this. Forget the idea that manifesting is about thinking hard enough. It's about getting clear on what you want, believing what is possible, imagining and envisioning that, and taking small steps towards it. Visualize, where do you want to be 6 months from now? Identify the feeling. Is it peace, creativity, connection, growth? And list 3 ways that you can start embodying that feeling right now before anything external changes. Find your purpose in what you want. It's about setting those intentions. Purpose is not something that you stumble upon one day with a trumpet playing in the background and everything is perfect and beautiful and bright. It's something that you build slowly, intentionally, by paying attention to these 3 things. What lights your fire? Think about moments when time disappears. What are you doing in that moment? Who are you helping? What subjects or causes spark emotion in you? What breaks your heart? Sometimes purpose is born out of pain, maybe through a tough experience, trauma that you've had, and now it's the very thing that you feel called to help others through. That's kind of something that has brought me to my career field and wanting to help make things better for other people. The next one, what feels meaningful to you? Forget what other people think purpose should look like. Starting a business, painting murals, teaching yoga fills you with meaning, that's valid. Your purpose, what you think purpose is, doesn't have to be loud or famous or approved by anyone else. It just has to be real and honest and authentic. So we've talked about change, the kind that knocks the wind out of you, the kind that is chaotic and messy and uncomfortable. We've talked about acknowledging and feeling our emotions without judging them. And I feel the need to say that because it's so important to not judge ourselves. Sometimes we can be our harshest critics, and acknowledging our emotions without judging them, saying what's true, can be really difficult to do. Saying something like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what comes next, that can be difficult to even admit. So instead, ask yourself, what do I need to do right now? What comes next? I don't need to fix it, I just need to feel it. Because over time, pain becomes the soil where something new can grow. Not overnight, not quickly, but in time, slowly. That's when that real positive change and those intentional changes come into play. Before we move on, here is a reminder. Acceptance is not an agreement. You don't have to like what happened to you to begin healing from it. And I've said that before. You just have to stop fighting reality, because reality cannot be changed. But we can change the way that we react to a situation and the way that we heal and deal with it moving forward. How do we shift our negative to positive thinking? If your default setting has been anxiety, self-doubt, negativity, first, know that you're not broken. Again, I know I'm saying that. This is a normal human function. This is a normal human feeling. Our brains are wired to have a negativity bias. They're wired to notice threats, not blessings first. But we can train our minds like we can train a muscle. And it all starts with reframing that inner dialogue. Catch yourself the next time that you are negatively self-talking and reframe it into a situation as an example. Instead of I always mess up, try I'm learning and mistakes are part of growth. Start by visualizing something every morning that is hopeful for you. Start your day with a 2-minute vision of how you want to feel. Ground yourself in that energy. Positivity is not pretending that everything's perfect. It's choosing to believe that even the hard stuff can be part of something meaningful. Something that I think is really cool is we don't rise to the levels of our goals. We fall into the levels of our habits. Small things, daily changes, Foundational habits that elevate everyday life, such as starting your day with intention. Before you reach for that phone, breathe. Set one small intention. It could be staying calm, speaking kindly, moving my body today. Prioritize sleep and movement. You don't need a gym. You need to stretch, walk, hydrate, and let your body feel like it's alive. It doesn't have to be drastic changes. And I think that's what society pushes. And when we don't fall into what society thinks we should be doing, we feel like a failure. So feed your mind with 10 minutes a day of reading or listening to something that expands your knowledge, expands your growth. Again, it doesn't have to be big changes. These are things that nourish your body, nourish your mind. Track your habits with compassion. Use a habit tracker or a journal. Don't beat yourself up for missing a day. Just celebrate that you're showing up. We're not perfect. It's not going to be perfect. And the last one, protecting your energy. You are not obligated to be available 24/7. Set boundaries like your peace depends on it, because it does. I think the thing that we forget so often is that success looks different for everyone, but there are patterns. Here are some universal qualities that define people who live fully and make an impact. People who choose consistency over intensity. People who don't wait to feel motivated, they just take small actions daily, even when it's hard. I think it's really easy in our society with social media, with Instagram, with TikTok, whatever. We are constantly seeing videos of people being successful and feeling motivated and changing their lives with these big changes that it makes us feel like we're not doing enough. That's where we really have to change our growth mindset, believing that we can learn anything and failure is data, not defeat. And we can do things like learn to pause before reacting, feeling our feelings, but not letting our emotions run the whole show. Trust me, that's taken me a lot of work. Committing to our goals, adapting when life calls for it, learning that we need to be resilient and adaptable rather than forcing ourselves to do or feel something that we're not ready for, and learning to align our choices with our core values, not chasing every trend or every fad on social media or within society. We listen to our inner voice and remember that success is not a personality type, it's practice. It's not for the extroverts that always motivated, the naturals. Success is intentional, and that means it's available to every single one of us. It doesn't have to look the same, it doesn't have to feel the same, it doesn't have to be on the same timeline. So speaking of that, how many times have you looked at someone successful and thought, oh, they just have that energy, they were born for this, or maybe even, I'm not that type of person? I hear that all the time. We associate success with a certain look or vibe, a loud, confident, charismatic, always on, but that's a highlight reel. The truth, success doesn't belong to a personality. It belongs to a deliberate, dedicated person. You don't need to be loud and powerful. You don't need to be fearless to take the next step. You just need to be intentional about your habits, your values, and your direction. So when we talk about being intentional, what does that actually mean? It means clarity, knowing what the version of your success looks like, not your parents, not Instagram, not the girl on TikTok. It means consistency, showing up even when it's boring, even when you're tired, even when nobody claps for you. It's about choice, understanding that every action is a vote for the kind of life that you want, and you get to cast that vote daily. Being intentional is like being the quiet architect of your life. You don't need to shout about a blueprint, you just need to build it quietly. Stop waiting to become the right kind of person, because you already are. You just have to find it within yourself. Start asking yourself, what would be the most intentional version of me today? Pick one small action that aligns with your goals and do it. It doesn't need to be flashy or loud. It just needs to be real. Remember that you don't have to feel confident to be committed. You don't need a type of personality to be successful. You just have to make the decision and move forward. When we begin to think about success, it's easy to think about the loud versions, the ones that have everybody clapping for them and have all of the likes. We've all done it. You're scrolling through Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, and suddenly you feel kind of crappy about yourself and where you're at. Someone's on a luxury vacation in the Bahamas. Another person just got engaged. The influencer has flawless skin, a six-pack, and a perfectly aesthetic kitchen. And suddenly your baggy sweatpants, leftover pizza, and anxiety don't seem like they're cutting it. Social media fuels this cycle of comparison. How can we stop letting that mess with our self-worth? Comparison is not new. Success is not new. It's actually hardwired into all of us as humans. Our brains are naturally used to comparison to try to figure out where we stand within our society. It's helped us survive socially and physically. But what used to be comparing ourselves to maybe a handful of people, like our classmates, our peers, our neighbors, our coworkers, has now turned into a social media comparison buffet. It's an all-you-can-eat buffet. You're not just comparing yourself to the high school friend anymore. You're comparing yourself to celebrities, influencers, curated highlight reels, filters, Photoshop, and often straight up fiction. Social media is not real life. We can choose what we put on there. We know that. But somehow our brains still fall for that trap. People post their best moments of life, the vacation, not the debt that it cost them to go on that vacation, the wedding photos, not the arguments behind the wedding photos, the success, not the late night stress or insecurity that came with it. And when we compare the behind the scenes to someone else's highlights, we will always come up short. It's really, really, really important that we say that. It's not real. Social media highlights the good things. It doesn't highlight the messy, the chaotic, the uncomfortable, the awkward. For example, I found myself hating my own progress because of someone else who posted their dream job, and I don't even want that job. I just was like, oh my gosh, I feel kind of crappy about myself right now. And it's not just that we compare, it's that we start resenting our own lives. We start chasing other people's dreams, their jobs, their bodies, their standards, or their family. We begin to chase their success, even if we don't want that success. What does this do to us emotionally? Comparison often leads to insecurity, anxiety, depression, or imposter syndrome. It chips away at our confidence, our creativity, and our motivation. And worse, it can make us start performing for validation instead of living authentically. We stop asking, what do I want? And we start asking, what will get me likes? Truthfully, it's a silent battle, and it's exhausting, and it's not worth it. But social media is not going away, and neither is the comparison game, really. But we can change our relationship to both. You are more than your follower count. You are more than how your life looks online. You are more than how many friends you have on Facebook. And you are enough, even if no one double taps you to tell you that. I want to switch perspectives for a second. Have you ever posted something and then kept checking your phone to see if people liked it? Maybe you felt a little high after seeing that number go up. That's not an accident. That's actually your brain on dopamine. When we get a like, a comment, a share, our brain releases a hit of dopamine, the same chemical involved in pleasure and reward. It's the same system that gets triggered by things like food, sex, gambling, or even drugs. So when we post something and people respond to it, our brain's like, yeah, that feels good, do it again. And the more that we get used to that validation, the more we start craving it. We actually start tying our self-worth to that. If a post gets attention, we feel valuable. If it doesn't, suddenly we're questioning our looks, our talent, or our likability, and even our self-worth. So we're not just comparing ourselves to others, we are also measuring our worth in likes, views, and follows. And that's a game that we can't win because the rules will always keep changing and the goalposts will keep moving. We've talked about that comparison game. We've talked about how success looks when it's other people and how it makes us feel kind of crappy. Comparison plus dopamine addiction equals a recipe for emotional burnout. There's another math equation. We start performing, we start editing our lives to fit what we think people want to see, not what we want to post. We get anxious about being perceived as something that we're not. We feel inadequate even when things are going fine. It actually becomes less about connection and more about performance. When we think about success in the future, how do we kind of limit our interactions with social media to make ourselves better and work on ourselves without that comparison? Things like curating your feed, unfollow or mute people that trigger unhealthy comparison. Fill your feed with positive people who remind you of reality, not perfection. Setting boundaries, taking time away from apps. Your brain needs space to breathe without being constantly judged or triggered. Practicing gratitude. Your ordinary life is someone else's dream. Try writing down 3 small things that you're thankful for in your life every single day, because that does help. Pause before posting. Ask yourself, am I sharing this to connect or be validated? There's no shame in either, but awareness changes everything. And stay in your lane. Your journey is yours, your timing is yours, and value doesn't need an algorithm to confirm it. Social media is powerful. It can be beautiful when we use it for something positive. It can be fun, but it also has a very dark side that feeds on comparison and external validation. The likes, they feel good, but they're not proof that you matter. You already matter, without the filters, without the edits, without the likes. And when we think about it, we live in a world that's constantly measuring who's ahead, who's behind, who's winning, who's losing. It starts really early. We're taught to look left and right before we even look inwards. But that comparison is the enemy of peace. And when it comes to that real success, the intentional kind of success, the kind that feels good, the kind that lasts, you don't get there by chasing someone else's version of it. We've talked about it. And when we often think of a destination, that dream job, the relationship, the money, the house, the body, those things are results, not definitions of success. True change, true success is alignment. It's when your actions match your values. It's when you're growing and you're changing, when you're becoming the person that you actually want to be, not the person that you think you should be to impress other people. Instead of asking, am I doing as well as they are? Ask, am I growing into the version that I want to be? You guys, make the vision boards. Manifest your change, work on your change, focus on yourself, limit interactions with things that make you feel less than or make you feel crappy or make you feel negative. Cut those things out of your life. Your pace doesn't make you behind. Your detours don't make you broken. Your path is not supposed to look like theirs. And when we always focus on people on social media or people that we are around in our everyday life, we forget that everyone's timeline is different. Some people peak in their 20s, others find their purpose at 40. Some take the scenic route and others take off like a rocket. Change doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, slow, and visible. But that doesn't mean it's not happening. Success isn't always flashy. Sometimes it's just saying no to the thing that is not right for you in the moment, even when it looks good on paper. Change is happening even when it's not obvious yet. Success is building even when no one is clapping. And the life that you want, you're creating it one choice, one step, and one day at a time. Don't let the noise of other people's lives drown out the beauty of your own. Wherever you are in your journey, start from there. Before I end this episode, and I know it was not very long this week, but this is what I have, I want to leave you with a quote as Theodore Roosevelt said, "Comparison is the thief of joy. It robs us of our presence, our gratitude, and our motivation. Instead of focusing on our path, we obsess over someone else's. And we think that their success and their change is better than what we are doing. So here's a reminder that your only real competition is who you were yesterday." And that brings me to the last part of our episode. Change. Here's the truth. We grow, we evolve, and we want changes, and that's okay. Maybe your definition of success 5 years ago doesn't fit who you are now. Maybe your goals that you set back then doesn't excite you the way it used to. That doesn't mean you failed. That means that you're growing. You're listening to yourself, and that takes a lot of courage, and I want to acknowledge that because change is not always comfortable. Change is not going to be loud, but it's necessary. And sometimes letting go of an old version of success is the most powerful step that you can take towards your real one. I have a challenge for you guys this week. Define success in your own words, not your parents, not your friends, not your Instagram reels, not anybody else, yours. Notice when you're comparing and stop yourself. Gently shift your focus back to your own journey. Embrace change as a sign of growth, not inconsistency. Your story, your change shouldn't look like anyone else's. In fact, it should not be anywhere close to anyone else's because their success and your success are two totally different things. But let's be real for a second. The fact that change can also feel very terrifying. It can feel heavy even when it's exactly what we need. Why? Because change means loss. Even when we're moving towards something better or letting go of something familiar. Remember, we tie this all back to the beginning of our conversation. Familiar feels safe. Control feels safe. Whether it's a routine, a relationship, or a role that we've played for years. And that's a really hard thing to understand and accept. Change means loss. We grieve the comfort of our lives, the predictability, the identity that we've wrapped ourselves up in. But sometimes we've clung on so tightly to an outdated version of ourselves that releasing it feels like a failure, even when it's actually growth and change. But hear me when I say this. You're not weak for feeling scared. You're not behind because change feels heavy. It's supposed to feel like that, even if society and social media say otherwise, because you're stepping into the unknown in your brain. The brain hates the unknown. Again, because familiar and control feels safe. It wants the familiar, even if the familiar is holding you back. Here's something I've learned. The heaviness of change is not a sign to stop. It's a sign that something important is actually happening. It means that you're shedding layers that no longer serve you. You're stepping out of autopilot and you're making room for who you're becoming. I want to bring this all home and back so that we can end the episode now. Success is not a destination someone else can point you towards. It's a path that you build step by step in alignment with who you truly are. Comparison, that's just noise. It's a distraction. And change, yes, it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it will knock the wind out of you, but it's also a doorway to a life that actually fits with what you're looking for. So if you're in a season of shifting, redefining, letting go, or just feeling lost, you're not broken. You're becoming who you were meant to be. Keep walking, even when it's messy, even when it's slow, because the version of you who you're stepping into, they are waiting and they are proud of how far you've come. Thank you for sharing your time and your energy with me today. If this episode spoke to you, again, take a second, share it with someone who might need the reminder. Send me your ideas, your topics, whatever you want. Send me any feedback. And if you're not already following me on YouTube, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, whatever, go do it. We've got more honest, unfiltered conversations coming your way. So until next time, stay grounded, stay growing, and most importantly, stay true to who you are. I will see you later.